Three straight losses for the Tampa Bay Lightning 1 week after that big 7-game win streak. So what's changed in a week? We'll talk about it on today's Locked on Lightning.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked on Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. As always, we want to begin with a shout out to our everydayers, those of you who tune into every single show, every single day. We love you. We appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the McDonald's French fries to my McDonald's Coke, Greg Steven. Greg, welcome in, my friend.
Good morning. Happy Monday. 3 straight losses is tough, but we'll dive into that right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to. What has happened with the Bolts exactly? This time last week, we were talking about an epic win streak and the Bolts being first place in the entire Eastern Conference. Now 3 straight losses, including 2 against the New York Islanders. Go figure. We'll break down what's gone down in this losing streak. Plus, good injury news. Victor Hedman is back on the ice, made his debut Saturday. Bad news. Lightning played that game without Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevsky, who are now dealing with injuries. What's going on? We'll also have a preview of tonight's game against the Toronto Maple Leafs and a power rankings, maybe speaking of the Maple Leafs a little bit. The 3 coaches that we think are most on the hot seat right now. A lot to get to on today's show. Before we dive in, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Greg. What's been going on, man? 3 straight losses for the Bolts.
It's a great question. I think a lot of it is what we've been talking about, which is just how many changes there have been to the lineup over and over.
Again, yeah. We're talking about this every single week. It's so bizarre. Like, I don't remember. And you know what? Even going back to 2017, I don't remember it. I remember like all the top guys kind of wound up, getting hurt down the stretch. But I don't remember this sort of thing in which I think John Cooper said it best. He's like, we're getting one guy back, getting some momentum, and then the next day we're losing 2 more guys. It's bizarre how this has happened.
It is, and it's happening to everyone. It's not just the same guys getting hurt. Like now you see Cooch and like you said, Vasi sitting, and Point is still out. McDonough's on the IR. Chernak's still out. It's a mess. You're right. It's like an anomaly. I don't know what's going on at this team right now, but I'm kind of impressed still, though, because despite the 3-game losing streak, still in a good position in the standings, given like what's going on with their whole team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's some nuance to like what the quote unquote what's wrong with the Lightning right now, because I don't think they're playing all that bad. Latest loss this weekend was to the New York Islanders. Of course, the Islanders were the ones that broke the win streak earlier in the week. Rematch at Club BMI, as Greg calls it, this weekend. Lightning lose 2-0, both goals coming from the Islanders in the third period, one of which came during a 4-minute power play after a Brandon Hagel high stick. Lightning did get 32 shots on goal, but Ilya Sorokin shut the door on the Lightning. And here's kind of what I say when I look at this latest loss, Greg. Mm-hmm. I've looked at the past 3 games, and other than the start of the Penguins game, which we'd mentioned on, our last week's show, that was abysmal. We talked about that. But other than that stretch, I don't think the Tampa Bay Lightning are playing all that different than they were when they had that 7-game win streak. You're seeing a lot of the elements. I don't think they're playing that bad. It's not like they've massively regressed in a certain area.
Right.
Am I wrong? Like, are you noticing anything that's vastly different from this losing streak to the last win streak?
No, I don't think so. I think you're absolutely right. Especially in this Islanders game, I thought they actually played a pretty good game, especially without Kucherov. But I will say, I do think it was noticeable that Kucherov was not there. I think the power play looked like it generated a few chances, but it just didn't look the same. I think if you have Kuch out there, you probably convert on one of those.
Yeah, and I think that goes down to just the consistency that we've talked about. Is Nikita Kucherov was one of the Lightning's best players he's best player all the time, but was one of the best players for the Lightning over the past month, was one of the hottest players in the entire NHL over the past month. And you didn't have him for this game. All of a sudden there's different line combinations. There's different people, and you're kind of running your offense through somebody a little bit different. I think that the change, losing somebody like Nikita Kucherov, causes sort of a trickle-down effect where, okay, all of a sudden this third line had some good chemistry, but you have to break it up because you need some players who are able to play a scoring line role. And, this fourth line had some chemistry, but now we need to bring people into the lineup. And, maybe Curtis Douglas plays a certain style of game with Dominic James that he's not able to really play with Jack Finley. That's just kind of, two people that I notice on the bottom line. But you get the point where all of a sudden the lineup, losing a player like Kucherov causes a massive ripple effect up and down the lineup. And it's also with Braden Point is still out. We haven't heard a whole lot about his return other than he's in the range where he's starting to become questionable for each game. Mm-hmm. But those are two people at the top of your lineup, and losing them causes this massive ripple effect.
It does. And we also saw, Hedman return, which we'll talk about soon, but I think that was a big impact on this game. I want to go back to what you said about Curtis Douglas playing some time. I kind of thought that there was a better path to take if you're John Cooper in this game. I don't know that I bring in Finley and Douglas into this game at the same time. I think I'd bring one and a seventh defenseman. And especially given that Hedman is, just returning, and he skated the fewest minutes in this game, by the way, of the defense. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that was the only thing I would really disagree with the Islanders game that we just saw. But outside of that, yeah, I think all these guys being out and these adjustments are just crazy. I can't even imagine being on this coaching staff right now. You're just constantly having to juggle all this injury issue nonsense.
Yeah. I want to say because you mentioned seventh defenseman, and you talk about Curtis Douglas and Jack Finley. I'm almost in the vein of, okay, you have all these guys. You called some people up on defense who've done really well, but maybe where's an offensive call up? Maybe a guy that's a little bit more dynamic. And now it sounds like Curtis Douglas might actually be hurt. So that's another storyline for another day. And Dominic James also missed a lot of time at the end of that game on Saturday. And, so you might have to, but I would almost love to go down to Syracuse and give somebody like Jacob Peltier a chance, who is absolutely tearing it up right now. Connor Geekie, since the Lightning sent him down, he has really found his game and taken off. I would love to see them make maybe a dynamic offensive call up to maybe support that. And look, you're one more injury away, or not injury. You're one more injured person getting healthy on the blue line, to where I think you could play seven defensemen with a really good lineup. All guys who are playing lights out at the moment. But I think until then, if Kucherov is out for any amount of time and, you're still iffy on Braden Point status, I think you have to call up some guys who have some high-end offensive potential here.
Yeah, completely agree. I also think I love your point. Dylan Duke is a guy I would call up as well.
Yeah, sure.
Especially with like his leadership. And let's just say hypothetically Hedman was still out. He's just a guy that can kind of come in as like a leader voice, because I think that he's that kind of guy. So just subtle things like that where you got to wonder about the decision making as far as guys you're subbing in.
Sure. And again, there's not too much to this discussion of, 3 straight losses, what's happened? Because I don't think anything's really changed. I think the Lightning are still playing good. I mean, they I think outplayed New York for most of this game, just ran into a brick wall at Ilya Sorokin, same way like that first Islanders loss. A couple things here and there, but again, I thought they outplayed the Islanders in that game. They just couldn't finish chances. They ran into a great goaltending performance. And then we talked about Pittsburgh, had a chance to win that game. Weird call that ultimately doomed them at the end after rebounding from a bad start. But those are 3 games where you look at it and say there's a lot of positives in all 3 of them.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think they've just been playing the same game, and you can't win them all. It's just kind of what it is.
Speaking of the hand pass call from the Penguins game, did you see the Panthers game from Saturday?
I did, yes. Crazy.
Same play, right?
Right,
Same
exactly.
thing, right?
Yeah, and that one counted, right?
Yeah, that one counted. Yeah, for those of you who didn't see, we had a puck bounce off Brad Marchand's hand, arm, literally the exact same thing as Brandon Hagel from that game the other night. That was not called a hand pass. Reminder, it's the same crew in Toronto that is in charge of this.
Pretty wild.
Never beating the allegations, NHL. Hey, as Greg mentioned, Victor Hedman back in the lineup for the first time in a while, returning from injury. What do we think of his game and how he was used? Plus, Lightning taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight to kick off a little mini road trip. We'll have a preview of that game and more coming up on today's Locked On Lightning. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. One of my favorite sporting events ever is coming back to North America, the first time since 1994. You guessed it, we're talking about the World Cup. Just had the schedule released, just had the draw. I am psyched to see these games. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be the most massive World Cup ever. But let's be honest, getting tickets, a little bit of a fever dream for most of us, right? Well, not necessarily. That's where Game Time comes in clutch. Game Time finally gives fans like you and I an advantage when it comes to snagging great seats for quote-unquote impossible to get in events. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alert when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of a fever dream. I love using Game Time for anything. Whether it's sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater, you name it, all I do is pull up the app, scroll through games or events I want to see, compare seat views. I love just tapping a section and having my tickets loaded and locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. The seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the venue looks like from your exact seat before you buy. And one of my favorite things, the price fees are included up front. So if you see X amount of dollars when you're trying to select seats, that's the price you're going to pay. You don't get surprised by massive fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets for every match, concert, event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. We're back on Locked On Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Stephen, and a bit of announcement for the Locked On Podcast Network. You already have your team every day. Now it's time to take it up a level and go ad-free. Join Locked On's Everydayer Club and get Locked On Lightning with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. All you have to do is go to the link in our show notes or go to lockedonpodcast.com/podcast/locked-on-lightning. All right, guys, let's talk about Victor Hedman's return to the ice. this past Saturday against the New York Islanders. Good to see Hedman back out there. Greg, I thought very interesting was the way that Victor Hedman was used in his return to play.
Yeah. What made it interesting in your mind?
Number one, lowest ice time
Yeah.
among all Lightning players. Number two, there wasn't any defensive reshuffling. I don't think they just came in and threw Victor Hedman right back in at the top of the lineup. They kept JJ Moser and Darren Raddysh together. Remember, JJ Moser was Victor Hedman's defensive partner.
Right.
We talked about that Moser Raddysh pairing being a amazing pair for a while. They kept Dasto and Lilberg together. Those two have been playing well. So you have Victor Hedman with Max Crozier. And it seemed more like this is kind of all who's left, as opposed to Victor Hedman's coming back in. Let's put him back in with his normal partners.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree. I think they're trying to be careful with his injury, obviously, since he skated so few minutes. I also thought it was fascinating to have Hedman play with Crozier, considering both of them have been out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I understand the logic in not breaking up the other two pairings, because you and I have even talked about how great they've been.
Yeah.
So why, tinker with that? I think that makes perfect sense. But at the same time, it's like, you're going to put two guys who haven't really been skating a ton regularly together on the same pairing. And again, it goes back to just coaching questions, because I don't know what I'd do here either, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
it's two trains of thought here. Like, one, is this we're easing Victor Hedman back in, we're not going to shake up too much. We're going to get him like some quote unquote third pair minutes and just let him sort of adjust to being back on the ice. Or is this more of a situation where you look at Moser and Raddysh and say, you know what, they've been earning their ice time. And they earned it again the other night, because I thought both of them played great 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Or do you look at Dastu and Lilberg and say these two guys are really gelling right now? So it's almost like, to me, the right answer is probably a mix of both. You're trying to get Hedman acclimated, but also these guys that we mentioned deserve the ice time that they're getting.
Right.
They have played like number one defensemen in Hedman's absence, and in McDonough's absence, and in Chernak's absence.
Exactly.
So for me, you talk about coaching questions. I don't know. I kind of applaud this. I kind of applaud saying, you know what, we're not disrupting anything. Victor Hedman is Victor Hedman. He can find chemistry with a lot of different people. Let's ride out this wave right now and see how Raddysh and Moser continue to play, see how Dastu and Lilberg continue to play, and we'll get Victor Hedman back in his normal spots down the road, but we need to ride the hot hand for now.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And coming into this segment, I was going to actually say I thought Hedman played a pretty strong game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He had 3 or 4 plays. I remember thinking in my mind, oh wow, he's back and he looks great. So, yeah, I applaud it with you. I think it's smart to leave chemistry, and you don't go on a 7-game win streak without pairings playing well together. So again, why mess it up now that? But now let's look at it. They've dropped 3 here, and I think you haven't played awful in any of these 3 games by any means. So yeah. I just continue to roll the same strategy. To be honest with you, I don't think you change anything. I think you gotta just stay out of your own head and just pick up a W.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that strategy comes into play tonight, because the Tampa Bay Lightning take on the Toronto Maple Leafs at Scotiabank Arena. It still feels weird calling it Scotiabank. It's always going to be Air Canada Center to me. The Toronto Maple Leafs have had themselves kind of a weird season, Greg.
Yeah.
I think their coach Craig Berube is going to come up in the next segment we're talking about today. But this was a team that I think a lot of people said, even without Mitch Marner, it might make some noise this year, and it just hadn't happened. A lot of chaos over there. Obviously, some injury issues with Auston Matthews missing some time at certain points. Yeah. What do you make of the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, Greg?
I'm shocked. Like I actually I think I had them lower on my tier list when we did that stuff. And I knew that losing a Marner was going to be detrimental, right? But
yeah,
thought they'd be better than they are currently.
Mm-hmm.
Now that being said, lately they've been playing pretty well, right? They beat the Pens, they beat the Cats, and they beat the Hurricanes, 3 teams that are pretty strong. Obviously Florida a little banged up, but aside from that, then they just lost to Montreal in a shootout. But I think they're slowly looking a little better. And like you said, Matthews has kind of been teeter-tottering with injuries. So now that he's returned, this is a team that can't be taken lightly. And I don't think Kucherov is confirmed out tonight. But I think if he can go, you got to get him in there because this is a team you want to have Kucherov against. I think defense is going to be key in this one as well. Again, just a lot of superstars in this Leafs team. Tavares, Matthews, Nylander has been so good. This is Battle of the Stars to me.
Lightning taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight in Toronto, 7:30 puck drop for that game. We'll have a recap of that tomorrow and look ahead to the second game of the back-to-back road trip against Les Habitants, les Canadiens de Montréal. Actually, I think it's like
well done.
Club Hockey Canadian Day. I don't know. We'll ask Charles Edwards.
Sounded great to me.
Full pronunciation. Thank you. I appreciate that, Greg. It's Monday, which means it's time for some Monday power rankings. Who are the 3 NHL coaches on the hottest hot seat at this moment, nearing the midway mark of the season? That's coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly the entire game feels completely different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Maybe a receiver gets hot. Maybe a defense tightens up and stops a big scoring team, or maybe the momentum just flips after a late game turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment live as it happens. The live spreads and money lines adjust instantly to the big plays. If a guy heats up, player props around him heat up as well. You can bet on everything from net touchdown scores to drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets live season long. Again, all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com, download the app, and start placing bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Back on Locked on Lightning, Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Stephen. And Greg, let's get to Monday Power Rankings. Today's Power Rankings, the 3 NHL coaches on the hottest hot seat. Who are some guys that we think could be fired sooner or later if they don't turn it around soon? Greg, I'm going to leave. Words are hard today. Greg, I'm going to let you lead us off. Who do you think in the NHL is on the biggest hot seat right now?
That's a good question. I think it's very much up for debate, obviously. But I'm going to go with Adam Foote of the Vancouver Canucks.
I honestly kind of forgot he was there in Vancouver.
Yeah, because they let, oh my gosh, what's his name go? But regardless, I think they have enough talent on that team that they shouldn't be in 31st right now.
It's a disaster what's going on with that right now.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Like
there's a lot wrong, to be fair. I don't think this is all on the coaching, but I think, again, 31st with that roster to me is like, I don't know, we got to change something big time here.
Yeah, it's the players seem to not be getting along right now. Did you see the clip the other night where they're like watching like the iPad on the bench, and Quinn Hughes turns around to Elias Pettersson and just is like, "What the F are you doing?"
Really?
Like, yeah, he's like,
I didn't see that.
He said, and I'm using Pete, like, PC terms here, like, "You idiot."
Right.
Except it was a lot more vulgar than that, but it's an absolute mess, and I don't know if you can blame it all on Adam Foote. So
No, again, no, absolutely not. But still, I think a coach with more control of the room might have some of these guys dialed in a little more.
Yeah, if he's only been the head coach for 20 games at this point, so
right.
I think we might have a little bit longer leash.
Probably,
To me, Greg, I'm looking at the team the Lightning play tonight, and Craig Berube.
Oh,
I mean, that's what's going on in Toronto is kind of pure chaos right now.
mm-hmm.
They've played a little bit better, down a little bit. Like they just had a 3-game win streak and then a shootout loss to the Habs the other night. But if you look at this, where they are in the standings, I don't think that they are where they want to be. Obviously, you don't have Mitch Marner. You have to figure out to play. But I think a lot of people were saying, like, look, Toronto's still one of the 3 best teams in this division. And to see them out of the playoffs right now, barely, tied with Ottawa behind the Red Wings, barely ahead of Buffalo. I think people are expecting more. And obviously, with that Toronto roster, there's not a lot of room to maneuver. So I think you do kind of have to go, all right, if we can't change the lineup, we're going to have to change the coach up top.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think they should be way ahead of where they are right now. And I'm not counting them out just yet, obviously, because we saw the Lightning do something terrible in the beginning and turn it around entirely. So it's always possible. But yeah, I agree. I think he's on the hot seat, but not quite on the, all right, we're getting him out of here soon button hot seat.
Yeah. Who else? Who else do you think is on the hot seat in terms of coaches this year?
Great question.
Can I throw one out for you?
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff in Buffalo.
Okay.
Now, this is his 2nd season in Buffalo, and this is one of those things where, again, you have to say, okay, it's certainly not all his fault. And for what it's worth, the Sabres have this is very low bar, but I think they've played better than I think even people expected them to this year, which is weird because they still have a losing record. But, I think you look at Buffalo and they're going to make a front office change because I don't think you keep Kevin Adams in after this season. And I think just by virtue of that, I think you may have to look at Lindy Ruff as well.
Totally fair. I could absolutely see that being the case.
You know who should be on the hot seat but isn't, Greg?
Scott Arniel from the Jets.
I was gonna say Andrew Brunette in Nashville.
I was gonna say Andrew Brunette too, but I didn't want to rag on him.
Who is not on the hot seat because his GM came out and said he's not going anywhere.
Right.
Despite having the worst start in franchise history in back-to-back years, and despite having like a multi-million-dollar roster that's not doing anything.
I mean, to be fair, he was given a regressing Stamkos at the same time in a place he's never been. But yeah, you're right. I think you still have I feel like you still have a decent roster with Saros and Yossi. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the lineup is trash. But let me tell you, like, I'm gonna rant on Nashville for a little bit. But
yeah, it is your old team. Let's go.
So this is Andrew Brunette's 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
Any other team, you give him a roster like this, where I want to say like a total of $170 million invested over signings and trades since the summer before Brunette got there. So when you invest $170 million into your roster, you expect them to win right now. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of legitimate NHLers like high-end NHLers, sure, at the end of their peak, but still valuable coming into this team. Any other team that has underperformed like the Nashville Predators have would have fired their coach last year.
Yeah,
and not only are they're off to a horrible start this year, I think they still have the NHL's worst record.
They do.
Mm-hmm. Any other team would have pulled that trigger. Any other team would have pulled the trigger by now, and the Preds haven't, and it's kind of laughable, honestly.
It is interesting, especially to come out and also say, he's staying.
Yeah. Like, we're not making a change to get used to it. It's like, okay, we'll just tune out the rest of the year then.
Right. Like, at least leave the option open and say nothing. But to just because now if you do want to fire him, it looks even worse,
Yeah, because
for no reason.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. He should have been gone a long time ago. And I love Andrew Brunette. I know the Preds love Andrew Brunette, but
of course,
again, the record speaks for itself, and I don't know how he's still there.
Let me shout out one more thing about the Nashville Predators real quick. Our boy Nick Perbix is -11 over there. Yikes.
I'm starting to see the chatter. It's like, why is Nick Perbix getting, the responsibility he's getting?
Yeah.
It feels like the Lightning fans are doing the Leo DiCaprio pointing at the TV when they
That's me right now.
So I feel bad for Stamkos. I really do.
I do as well. Every time I see it come up that he's struggling, I'm just like, poor guy, man. Just a good dude.
Hey, if you're listening, did we miss an obvious coach on the hot seat, or somebody that you think maybe low-key could be in trouble if their fortunes don't improve? Let us know. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Drop us a line on social media, Locked On Lightning on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you scroll. We'd love to hear from you. Tomorrow, we will have a new episode with recap from tonight's Maple Leafs game, and also look ahead to tomorrow's Habs game. It's a busy week for the Lightning, so we'll stay busy as well. That is going to do it for us on today's Locked On Lightning. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Back with a new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.